Okay, so this is going to be the second part of your science lesson for today. Okay, we're on page 456, and it's titled Fossils That Burn. Okay, it might sound a little confusing, but I'm going to try to explain it the best I can. Not all organisms are fossilized in rock. What else may happen to organisms when they die? The fossilized remains of the plant shown in this photo may give you a clue. Okay, right there. So that's a picture of a plant that has turned into coal. Okay, on the left side here, it shows how coal forms. Okay, it gives it 3 steps. We're going to go through them. Okay, so the first step is that plants die and settle to the bottom of a body of water, and they are buried by sediment, just like we talked about in the previous video with the fish being buried in the sediment, okay? Then, in step 2, the temperature and pressure rise. Much of the water in the remains is squeezed out. The remains change into something called peat, okay? Peat doesn't give off a lot of heat, but it does produce a lot of smoke when it burns. So you could see the pressure from the bottom of the ocean floor and the top are pushing against each other, okay? So it's causing a kind of like a pressure cooker situation, okay? So in step 3, you could see it says peat continues to be compressed and heated. Compressed means when you're pressing something against each other, okay, really hard. So it continues to be heated, and then over time, all of the water is gone. Then coal forms. It is hard and made of pure carbon. Coal produces a lot of heat and a little smoke, so it's very useful. We used to use coal in trains, ships, trying to think what else, fire, to light fire, anything that you wanted to heat. A lot of things used to run on coal before we refined gasoline and used the combustible engine that most cars run on now. I know we have some electric cars, but for the most part we still use cars that run on gasoline. So I'm going to read the section here, okay, about how coal forms. You could follow along with me. So coal forms from dead plants, as we already discussed. When plants die, they sometimes end up at the bottom of a lake or a pond, and then sediment buries the plants. Over many years, the heavy layers of sediment cause the temperature and pressure underground to rise. This causes the plant material to change into coal. So it actually goes through an actual chemical change, okay? It's changing from a plant to a different substance, coal. This causes the plant, read that already. The higher the temperature and pressure, the better the type of coal that forms. Because remember, the more coal-like it is and less peat, the more fire it produces. So it doesn't produce as much smoke and it produces more energy, okay? Because the coal we use today comes from ancient plants, it's called a fossil fuel. A fossil fuel is an energy-rich resource formed from the buried remains of once living organisms. Coal formation is continuing in peat bogs found around the world. Okay, so like I said, gasoline and oil originate from fossil fuels. That's why they're called, if you ever heard the term fossil fuels, it's because they come from fossils originally. Pretty interesting. I bet a lot of you didn't know that about gasoline. So, moving forward, hold on. Okay, we're going to go on to page 457 and talk about how oil and natural gas form, how we get the gas out of the ground as well, okay? So, I'm going to read the main section on page 457 right here. It says oil and natural gas take millions of years to form. It's just like the coal, okay? So the organisms that made fuels we're using today are very old. Just like coal, oil and natural gas are fossil fuels. Today, large amounts of oil and natural gas are trapped beneath layers of rock deep beneath the Earth's surface. Pumps remove the oil and natural gas from the ground. So we have, back in the day, I guess they used more, I don't want to say simple methods to extract oil from the ground, okay? Now we have machines that do it more easily, but this concept is the same. The oil's buried deep in the ground, and we got to get it out, okay? So the first step is to get the oil out of the ground. Then we take it to what we call oil refineries, and there's actually a number of oil refineries in New Jersey. If you're driving down New Jersey Turnpike, you might see some of them. They look like cylinder-shaped buildings, and their purpose is to what we call refine the oil, mean remove the crude oil, the gunk and the bad stuff, and either turn it into gasoline or into motor oil, okay? If you look at the diagram at the top, it shows how oil and natural gas forms, okay? So step one is many tiny sea organisms die and settle into the bottom of the ocean where they are buried by sediment. Same concept as the coal and same concept as the fish dying and getting trapped under the ground. Over time, the weight of both the sediment and the water above it cause the temperature and pressure to rise. Eventually, all that's left of the organism is hydrogen and carbon. Oil and natural gas form from these elements, okay? So now you know how we get gas and oil from the ground, okay? It comes from a process that took millions of years. That's why people are inventing electric cars and trying to go green, because they're worried that these fossil fuels are going to run out, okay? Because they were created millions of years ago, they're not unlimited. Our resources are not unlimited. There's not unlimited amount of gasoline and oil in the world. So your assignment is, and do the math, is you're using this data table. So this is kind of a cross-curricular assignment, meaning we're combining math and science. So if you look at this table, it breaks down how, just an example of how a barrel of crude oil before it's refined is used. They're saying 35 liters are used for diesel fuel, and diesel fuel's for large trucks, okay, that you see on the highway. Jet fuel, 15 liters. Other products, 40 liters, and gasoline, meaning gasoline that you could put in cars, 70 liters. So it says oil that is pumped from the ground is called crude. Crude oil is refined to make many different products such as gasoline for cars and fuel for jets. About how many total liters are refined from a barrel of crude oil? So all you're doing is adding up those four numbers, okay? And then that will give you the total liters refined from the barrel of crude oil, okay? The second question says how much crude oil remains after the gasoline is refined from the oil. So what you would do is you would take the total that you got. Remember, for the first question, this question right here, you add up these four numbers and you get a total. For the second question, you take that total and you subtract the 70 liters of gasoline. That's it, okay? So whatever number you get for the first question, you're going to take away the 70 liters of gasoline, and that's how much crude oil remains after the gasoline is refined from the oil, okay? All right, so that's it for today. We'll pick this back up on Wednesday. Thanks for watching, everybody.